I need to focus on something that's very important to me. But before I do, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell. All of you out there. The subscriptions are going up, viewership's going up, but that doesn't mean to stop. If you are a faithful watcher of these videos, it's up to you. You're the fan base. You know, somebody thinks I'm doing something right. Somebody's semi-entertained by my personality or the point of view that I'm presenting. I'm a non-Armenian. Why the heck am I doing this? Because as a Christian, it is my duty. I believe that I've been called to this. And some will say, you're crazy, you've lost your mind, you're wasting your time. And I say to all of them, sorry, I have to do what I know is right. All right, so this guy, Soghomon Tehlirian. Oh, when I see that face, I'm like, oh, wow, what you have seen, what you have been through. All right, now Soghomon is a hero to Armenians and a villain to Turks. Not all Turks, but those who believe the lies, the propaganda of Ataturk and of Erdogan. It's propaganda. They want to take over the world. They want to restore, or they want to create a Turkish empire, Pan-Turanism. And so let's go back to this map here. I just want to talk about Soghomon Tehlirian and how when I look at this map, I did another video that talked about, and I'll reiterate, the points, the places here that are important to Christians. So if you're a Christian, this video is for you. But Soghomon is a Christian hero. He's a young man from a culture that was brutally massacred, a Christian culture. And he was born right outside of this city called Yersinka, in a village called Pagaric. When he was about 7 or 8, his family moved to Yersinka. Then when he turned 17, just before turning 18, because then he would have been conscripted into the Ottoman military and sent to the front lines and to die ultimately, because that's what happened to the Armenians that were in the Ottoman Empire. The Armenian Ottoman citizens who were in the military were put in labor, their weapons were taken from them, they were put in labor battalions, and then they were all massacred. So that would have been his fate. That would have been this guy's fate. But before he turned 18, as was the case with his older brothers, he was sent to live with his father in Yugoslavia, current-day Serbia, a town called Valjevo, just south of Belgrade, just south of Belgrade. And so then war breaks out. So this is 1913. He leaves home. 1914, war breaks out. He knows he can't get back home. So he joins the Armenian volunteers up here. This is Tbilisi today, but Tiflis, Georgia, is where the Armenian volunteers joined the Russian army. So there was a regiment of like 1,500 Armenian volunteers from all over the world, Armenians from all over the world going, I'm going to go. They saw World War I as the opportunity to gain their independence, to finally, once and for all, for Armenians to have freedom from their oppressors. That was their goal and their belief, and they were excited. And so he signs up, he enlists against his father's will. And then he's sent, and he was in the regiment of the general Andronik, the great General Andronik, and he was sent, and he first saw battle down here. What today is northern Iran, because this lake is part of Iran. But first battle he saw was down in this region right here, and they were going this way because they were trying to get all this back. And so the Russians are behind the Armenian volunteers, and they push all the way to Van. This is Lake Van, and there's a city of Van. And there's a great story of the defense of Van. This is one of the most heroic battles on the Armenian side during World War I. The Turks were massacring people. They were massacring, and the Armenians of Van staged a defense, and they held off the Turk advance. And then they held them off until the Russian reinforcements came, and then the Turks had to pull back. And so Soghomon was a part of the Russian reinforcements. The Armenian volunteers were part of the Russian reinforcements. But then for some reason, the Russians decided to abandon Van, and they retreated back this way, all the way to Yerevan. And then the Armenian volunteers are disbanded. And this is traumatic. This is the worst case scenario. The Russians are like, yeah, they don't have the will to fight. It was just before the Bolshevik Revolution. The Russians are trying to decide what their interests are here. The rumor is that because the Turks wanted Armenia without Armenians. That was the phrase going around, an Armenia without Armenians. And the rumor was that the Russians also wanted Armenia without Armenians. So it's a battle for territory, just like what's happening today. It's a battle for land. This is historically Armenian land, all of it. And the Russians are like, are we going to, at the end of this war, really going to be given this? Is this really going to be given to us? Are we really going to end up with this? So the will of Russia, I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but so then with the disbandment of the military, of the Armenian volunteers, Soghomon is at wit's end. What can I do? My family is there. I got this far and thought I was going to get over here, and then we had to retreat. How do I get back to my family? So he starts collecting orphans. And Etchmiadzin, the first Christian cathedral ever built, is in Etchmiadz. It's still standing. I've been there. And so he's there, and it's actually used as an orphanage. I mean, he describes one room in the cathedral, just like 100 babies, just babies laying there, some of them dying because they have no family. It's like they're just collecting so many orphans. There's not even enough people to take care of them all. So then it turns out the Russians had advanced, and so he's appointed head orphan gatherer, and he petitions to go. I need to get to my home. And so he is given the permission to go gather orphans on the route. So there's a caravan of military, Russian artillery, etc. He joins that caravan, and they go to Erzurum, which is the capital of this province. So this is Erzurum province. His home is a part of that province as well. Also the home of Armin Garo, if anybody knows anything about Operation Nemesis. So finally he makes it all the way to Yersinka. He finds that his home, his own home, is used as a Russian barracks. But then right while he's there, he's trying to find family. He ends up finding one. He finds his niece out of 80 women and children, including like his one older brother, were all massacred. But they do find one of his nieces. It was taken as a slave, or, into the harem. She was 12 years old, taken into the harem of a Kurd, and they got her, rescued her, along with many other orphans. And then a treaty is signed here, an agreement is signed here between the Turks and the Russians. And this is where the Bolshevik Revolution is happening. And so the Russians abandon this front line, and the Armenians hold out as long as they can, and then they have to retreat all the way back. And then Soghomon gets injured in a battle over here somewhere, and then sent back to Tiflis, and then goes further up into Russia as the Turks begin further assault. The Turks come all the way over here before the war ends. All right, so that's the history of this region for Soghomon, for this guy, Soghomon Tehlirian. But I wanted to point out, all of that is in this book. All right, so this is being translated, and it'll be out next year, so you can read all of this yourself. But I want to point out another book, all right, that is critical, that is already out. So if you're interested in any of this and all of this, this book right here is Armenian Golgotha, by Grigoris Balakian. This is his personal memoir. This was an Armenian apostolic bishop, a priest in the Armenian Apostolic Church, who was among the 250 Armenians who were first exiled and then massacred. So he survived. He saw the elites, the most impressive Armenians of the Ottoman Empire were all rounded up. They were arrested, put on trains, and most of them were killed. And he saw like the best of the best, the most intelligent, the most artistic, the greatest minds of Armenia cut down before his eyes. And God miraculously preserved this guy. And it's depicted here, and he makes it. He survives. And again, I'll put the link, but let me just, where is it? So here's the picture. Here's the book. And this guy actually shows up in Soghomon's trial. In the end of Soghomon's memoir, he testifies in the trial. But I want to focus on this term, Armenian Golgotha. All right, let's go back to this map real quick. So I want to go kind of in reverse order historically. I don't want to make this too long, but subscribe and share. So let's go back in time. So Armenia, we're going to start more recently and then go back in time. I believe that this Armenian Golgotha, it's an analogy of Jesus Christ. All right. So what is Golgotha? Let's go there real quick. Golgotha. So the Golgotha. Well, basically it's just Calvary. The name of the hill on which Jesus was crucified appears in all canonical gospels as Golgotha or Calvary, which is Aramaic and Hebrew for skull. So Golgotha is the hill of the skull. It's where Jesus was crucified. And so that's why that phrase is used here. Armenian Golgotha is the hill where the Armenians were crucified, even though like Grigoris was over here in Istanbul. Right. He started here and then he went all the way down here. Like his travels are detailed in the book. But so this is the Armenian Golgotha. This is where the death of Armenia, essentially. And so the analogy is that Jesus was an individual who was massacred. He was brutally butchered. And then Armenia is a corporate body. So that's the analogy. There's an individual who gets massacred and then the corporate body. And I think it's a brilliant analogy. And I think it's actually the right analogy. And so in thinking about this, it's like, well, wait a minute. Is this a bad thing? Well, yeah, obviously this massacre was an awful, awful thing. But if you think about the analogy, it was God's will that Jesus die on the cross. I mean, Jesus even said it. It's not you. You have no power. He said it to Pilate. It's like, my Father can rescue me from this, but this is not you. It's his will that this happened. Because that was the whole point. Jesus needed to die for our sins. And again, a lot of you watching this are not very religious, but if you are Armenian, this is your heritage, right? This is your culture. And so what's the key point, the most important point of this whole Christianity thing? It's the resurrection, right? Jesus rose from the dead. He couldn't have risen from the dead if he weren't first brutally butchered on a cross. That's it, right? I mean, in 1 Corinthians, Paul says, if Christ is not raised from the dead, then we are of all people the most worthy of pity, right? Our faith is based on something totally fantasy or false. And, I'm sure a lot of my viewers are saying, yeah, you're crazy, if you believe in the resurrection from the dead. But there's more Christians on the planet today than any other religion, and it's just growing, right? And so for it to have exploded from these 12 guys and 500 people that Jesus appeared to after he resurrected. Okay, I'm going on a tangent here. I'm not here to preach the resurrection. I'm just here to point out it as a historical fact. It is something that transformed the world. That's the belief of Christians. That's what changed the world. That's what makes the world civilized. It's Western civilization is based upon this miraculous event. And if Jesus rose from the dead as a part of his Golgotha, then I believe Armenia as a corporate body is already demonstrating. Well, there's a lot of Armenians that actually said, yeah, you think you can destroy us? We're going to go and succeed and prove you wrong. And so that's why there's a lot of wealthy Armenians. But there's plenty of corruption, corrupt wealthy Armenians as well. So I'm not justifying, getting wealthy in a corrupt manner, in a sinful way. But I think there's a time coming when not only will Armenia prosper because of their own, pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, but this story being told, the story of this Golgotha being told through the story of this guy. The story of this guy. So I believe Soghomon's story is the resurrection analogy, right? So Jesus dies on the cross and rises from the dead. And then Armenians suffer the Golgotha of the genocide. And then Soghomon Tehlirian rises from the dead. He brings justice. Like Jesus coming out of the grave is like Soghomon putting a bullet in the head of Talat. Not just that. Not just the bullet in the head of Talat, that part of justice, but the telling of this story to the world. Right? The world doesn't know this story. The world doesn't know this story. As soon as they know this story, Armenia is going to thrive. Everybody will know what an Armenian is. Everybody will understand the Armenian genocide. Everybody will know who Soghomon Tehlirian is. And everybody will know the miracle work that God did in his life. All right? So I'm saying in the future that all of this will be recognized by the world, that even that Turkey will become a Christian nation. So I'm going to start from that point and wind backwards and then wrap this up. I think Turkey will become a Christian nation because that is the fulfillment of the Great Commission. Yeah, call me crazy. Jesus said, go and make disciples of the nations. Armenia was the first, but there are many more to come. Okay, and I believe Turkey will become a Christian nation. Armenia became a Christian nation. Let's rewind back further. The Apostle Paul preached through here. Apostle Paul was born in Tarsus. Jesus was born, died on the cross, was born, prophesied. And Mount Ararat was where Noah landed. The last thing, rewinding all the way back, because this is why I love this map, is this is where all the stories from my history as a Christian in the Bible, this is the most likely location of the Garden of Eden, which I didn't mention in my previous video, but I've done some looked into people who've done the research, and obviously it's impossible to nail it down. It's like, where was that, the Fertile Crescent or whatever? But because of the lakes, the rivers mentioned in Genesis the names are similar, and this is of anywhere in the world. That's how you're going to determine by the ancient names that are used. This region right here is very likely where the first humans, Homo sapiens, a man and a woman, genetically compatible, walked the earth. All right, that's enough.